All right, let's dive in. Have you ever put on a piece by, say, Mozart or Beethoven and just been blown away? Like, how on earth did they build something so huge, so epic, and have it all make perfect sense? Well, it turns out a lot of them were using this secret formula, kind of like a blueprint for telling an amazing story just with music. And that secret sauce? It's called sonata form. And today, we're going to crack the code together.
Yeah, think about it for a second. How do you keep an audience hooked for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes even longer, with no words? How do you build up all this drama and suspense and then bring it all home for a big, satisfying finish just with instruments? It's a huge challenge, right?
Well, the answer, the secret weapon, is this awesome structure we're talking about, sonata form. Think of it like a master recipe that composers back in the 18th century, guys like the incredible Haydn and Mozart, they basically perfected this thing. It became their go-to playbook, you know? Pretty much the first movement of every big piece, a symphony, a quartet, you name it, used this form.
Okay, so what is it? Well, at its core, sonata form is super logical. The best way to think about it is like a movie or a play. It's got 3 acts, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Simple as that.
First, you've got the exposition. This is where we meet our main characters, our musical ideas. Then you get the development. That's the big adventure, where all the conflict goes down. And to wrap it all up, you have the recapitulation. Think of it as the grand finale, the homecoming. See? Exposition, development, recapitulation. Now, let's dive into each one.
All right, Act 1, the exposition. This part has one main job, and it's super important. It introduces us to the main musical themes. These are basically the heroes of our musical story.
And usually, there are 2 of them, and they're total opposites. You've got theme 1, which is often this big, bold, energetic character that just grabs your attention. It sets up the home mood. But then, you meet theme 2. This one is often way more relaxed, maybe more lyrical and song-like. The biggest deal, though, they're in different musical worlds, or keys, and that clash, that contrast, is what creates the tension that's going to power the whole story. So what do I mean by key? Think of it like a home base in a game. It's the musical center of gravity, the sound that feels stable, resolved, like you're back home where you started. So theme 1 establishes this home base. But then, theme 2 shows up in a totally new key. And that right there is the main conflict we need to solve.
So how do we get from one theme's world to the other? Well, composers use this clever little trick called a bridge, or a transition. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's this little journey, usually a big burst of energy with a bunch of fast notes, that builds up excitement and literally carries us from the home key to the new key. Okay, now for the fun part. Act 2, the development. If the first part was just setting the stage, this is where the real adventure kicks off. It's the most unpredictable, the most dramatic section. Honestly, it's where the composer just gets to go wild.
I'm not kidding, it's like the composer just hits a giant remix button. All the rules kind of go out the window. They take those themes we met earlier and just start pulling them apart, mashing them up, and playing with them in all these new, crazy ways. So what does that actually sound like? We'll hear our main melodies get chopped up into little bits and pieces. We call those fragments. Those fragments go on a journey, traveling through all sorts of different keys, which can make the music feel a little unstable, almost lost. Composers will flip them upside down, combine them in weird ways. The whole point is to build tension. And it just builds, and builds, and builds, until, bam, it hits a massive climax.
Whew. Okay, after all that chaos, all that drama, we need to bring it home. We need a resolution. And that's what Act 3, the recapitulation, is all about. This is the grand finale, the big payoff for everything we've just been through.
It's basically a homecoming for our musical heroes. The word recapitulation just means to restate something, and that's exactly what happens. We hear those main themes from the beginning all over again. But there's a twist. There's one crucial change that solves the whole problem of the piece.
And here it is. This is the genius move. Theme 1 comes back, bold and confident, right in its home key. No surprise there. But then, theme 2 comes back, and it's also in the home key. The conflict is over. They're not in different worlds anymore. They're finally on the same team, in the same home base. And that gives you this incredible feeling of resolution, of victory.
But just when you think it's over, there's sometimes a little extra. To really stick the landing, composers often add a coda. That's just Italian for tail. And you can totally think of it like the end credit scene of a movie. It's just a final flourish to make the ending feel even more epic.
Beethoven especially. Oh man, he was famous for writing these huge, powerful codas that are like a whole victory lap at the end.
Okay, so we've broken down the code, right? Exposition, development, recapitulation. But you might be wondering, so what? Why is this one formula such a big deal?
Well, get this. This wasn't just some little fad. For more than 200 years, sonata form was the blueprint for serious music. It was a total game changer. It gave composers the tools they needed to write music that was longer, more complex, and way more emotional than anything that had come before.
Here's the bottom line. Sonata form gives music a story that our brains can actually follow. It's this perfect balance. You get the drama and adventure, but you also get the comfort of a clear beginning, middle, and end. It's a structure that lets us go on this huge emotional journey, but we never feel lost. It just makes sense.
Look, the best way to really get this is to just listen for it. So next time you put on some classical music, try this. Listen to the first movement of Mozart's Symphony No. 40. It's a textbook, perfect example. See if you can hear those two different themes. Or check out Beethoven's Fifth and listen to what he does with just those first 4 iconic notes in the development. Once you know what to listen for, you'll start hearing it everywhere. And that's really the coolest part. You now have this secret decoder ring for hundreds of years of amazing music. Sonata form isn't just a boring set of rules. It's a framework for telling incredible stories of drama, conflict, and ultimately resolution. So the question is, now that you know the code, what stories are you going to discover?